Hey everybody, welcome back. We are back to our texturing series. I knew I made a beeline for some other videos, and we're going to get back to those too. But I wanted to get back to the texturing. First of all, I really want to thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. I'm approaching 800 subs, and you guys are fantastic because you guys can go anywhere to get educational videos of Blender and Microsoft Flight Simulator, scenery, and all that kind of stuff. But you chose to watch my videos, and I'm humbled by that, and I thank you very much. I'm not the best teacher out there. I'm not the expert in any of this. I'm just one of you guys just sharing information, and I thank you so much for you coming and watching these. Like I said, I'm humbled by the number of views I'm getting. I'm not a huge channel. I don't think I'll ever be, but that's okay. I'm not here for that. I'm here for us to grow and learn together, and I'm always willing to learn. But thank you for coming. All right, so let's get back to our hangar. We're going to do a couple little things today. I'll show you a couple of other ways. Is it a couple other ways? It might be only one other way. But do some more texturing. To review this hangar at Akron Canton Regional Airport, this Timken Engineering hangar. We've done the corrugated steel on our door shed. We've done the roof. We can make the roof look better, and like I said, I will go back to my model and make modifications and stuff to make these texturings better, but I'm just using examples for you guys to see so you can get going on yours. So we did some roof. We've also added some concrete blocks or some cement masonry units, as they call them in the stone trade. I showed you some simple things about windows, and we applied some textures to, the most basic texture to our frames for our windows. So we've done some things. All right. So today we are going to learn about another way of applying a texture over another texture. All right. It's almost in a way related to when we did the Timken sign last time, but a little bit different. Okay. I know that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but anyway, in a way you can kind of think about doing signs like we did with the Timken sign as applying a decal. All right, but I'm going to show you the true way of adding a decal to your texturing. All right, and what we're going to do, and this is not real world. Okay, you would hopefully not see this kind of a texture on a fuel tank. Okay, we would hope that they take care of fuel tanks a little bit better than what I'm going to show you. Okay. All right, so let's select this partition wall that goes around our fuel tank, and I'm going to rename that to wall, so it's no longer the native vertice that we use to create the wall. And this vertice 01 I'm going to go ahead and shut off because it was just a construction line, and we're going to turn off the wall. All right, let me do a save. There we go. So now that save is committed. So here we have our fuel tank, and select the fuel tank, hit period to focus in on that fuel tank. So that's now my pivot point. Let's add we are going to add a we're going to add a base material to this, and then we are going to put something that shouldn't be on a fuel tank, but we're going to put it on here just so I can show you how you add a decal. We're going to add some rusty looking leak streaks on it, okay? So let's go ahead and get this let's get this tank to look the way that we want it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and make sure that our texture, our materials property set, and let's add a new material, and let's just call it tank for now. Okay, and we're going to give this we're going to leave it white, okay, but we're going to give it a little bit of metallic. Okay, you're not going to see much change yet. All right, so we'll give it a little metallic, and we'll bring down the roughness to make it a little shiny. You notice if I go all the way down with the roughness, it starts to really shine. And if I turned up the metallic, it gets more of a, whoops, let me try this again here. The further it goes, it looks more like a mirror. All right, but we don't want the tank to be that shiny because it's out in the weather and it gets weathered and things, but it does kind of shine. All right, so we got a little bit of maybe a satin shine to it. All right, so that's the base. All right, that looks good for now, but we need to weather it up a little bit. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to add a texture, and we are going to lay that texture. We're going to wrap that texture on this surface. In order to do that, you have to enable an add-on. It comes with Blender. You just have to enable it. So go to Edit. Let's go to Preferences. And we are going to turn on, let me see, type in Image. So it shows up. And you see this Import Images as Planes. You want to hit that check mark to turn on Import Images as Planes, okay? Then you can hit the X. What this allows you to do is bring in an image, and it automatically puts the image into a new object on a plane, okay? So it superimposes that image, all right? So with that, let's go ahead and with our tank selected, let's move our 3D cursor over to our tank. All right, so with the tank selected, do a Shift S, and let's cursor to selected. So now our 3D cursor is in the inside of our tank, right? I'm going to hit period on the number pad so I can focus in my tank. All right, now we're going to add a new object with Shift A. And I bet you my keycasts aren't turned on. There we go. Now we're set. So let's try this again. Select the tank. Good item. All right, Shift A. Let's add image. And you notice down at the bottom it says Images as Planes. If this doesn't show up in the list, you don't have the images, import images as planes enabled. All right, so anyway, we have that. So let's go ahead and click Images as Planes, and it's going to open up the dialog box, and then you are going to go get your image that you're going to use as a decal. In this case, I think I got it loaded. I'm not really sure if I have it or not. Let's go. So I go to my textures directory make sure I'm at Akron, Canton, and I am. And I should have one in here called leak 001. Yep, there it is right there. So let's go ahead and select that and import image as plane. Okay, so it brings in the plane. We don't see anything dramatic yet. All right, we need to change the orientation of the plane to kind of match our tank. All right, so I'm going to need to rotate that on the x-axis. So we're going to RX, and we're going to rotate that. No, I don't want to go that direction. I want to go negative 90 degrees. So it's facing this way to the right. Okay, doesn't matter, just as long as you know which way it's oriented. And we're going to rotate that on the Z, and we're going to go minus 90 degrees on that. Okay, and then we need to pull that out. So we need, because it's inside of our tank. So what we're going to do is we're going to GX and move that in the X direction until that comes out. Okay, now you notice that we have our image. All right, but you know what? I selected my wrong image, but that's okay. Let us redo that. Let's get rid of this. Okay, like I said, I do this live, and I think I chose the wrong image. All right, so what I'm going to do is, with my mistake, okay, I got the wrong image, and so I don't have to move that. I'm going to Shift S and move my cursor now to that location. Then I'm going to go ahead and delete. All right, I'm going to do another Shift A, images as planes. Yep, you got it. I made a mistake, so we're going to redo something, right? Okay, I'm going to go back into the texture, and I'm going to come down here. There it is, rust. I made an image based off of the image that I just added. Okay, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So I want rust PNG. That's the image that I wanted. And we're going to rotate that on the X, negative 90, since we did that before. And then we are going to rotate that on the Z, negative 90. So we turn that like that. All right. Now, that's the way my image came in, but I think it's upside down. So let's give it another rotation. Let's rotate that on the X, 180. There. That's what I wanted. All right, so with the image, import image as plane, it brings in a new object, which is a plane object. But it's called rust. Okay, it takes the name of the image, but it's a new object. All right, it's a plane object with the rust on it. Okay, now it is transparent. If you can see, it is transparent. I got the rust here, and then you got a bunch of spaces that places that are transparent. That is because over here in the materials properties, if you come down to the blend mode, it is set currently at alpha blend. All right, now if you do it and it doesn't come in transparent, all right, it might be by default on opaque, which would look like this. All right, or your transparent areas would be black. All right. Sorry. So change that to alpha blend, and that makes all the black areas of your image transparent. Okay, now we're getting ready to say we're gonna change the properties of this object, the rust object, so it wraps onto our cylinder that is our fuel tank. All right, so let's kind of move this around a little bit so we can get a good view of our plane. And I'm going to hit the Do I want the Y? Yeah, Y. If I hit that little green circle with the Y, that changes my orientation. You guys have noticed in videos I've hit the tilde key, and then T for top, A for back, F for front. Okay. You can also just click on these little dots in the gizmo up here, and it does the same thing as the tilde. Okay. Now let's take our rust plane and let's move that up a little bit. So GZ, move that up almost even with the top. All right. Then we're going to move that in the X direction. And let's move that in the Z direction again. Let's move that up. Now, let's rotate this on the Y. So R, Y. Oops, my orientation's incorrect. See, it's rotating from the 3D cursor. I don't want that. So escape and make sure that your transform pivot point is set to median point. Okay, and not the 3D cursor. All right, that comes in handy for other things, and in some of my previous videos we talked about that. All right, so change the pivot to median, then let's do a rotate on the Y, and now we can rotate that plane so it's kind of tangent, I guess you can say, to our circular part of our tank. All right. Now we have our plane oriented in such a way. It may not be exactly how we want it, but we can come back and fix some things. Now what we need to do is, with the plane selected, we're going to add a couple modifiers. Now if I go into edit mode right now and I hit tab, go into edit mode, this plane is made up of 4 vertices. Okay, it's just one polygon. All right, there's not a lot of geometry to it. There's just 4 coordinates that define this particular polygon, right? Okay, in order for shrink wrap to work, and that's what we're getting ready to do, is it needs a little bit more geometry in order to lay out on our shape that we're projecting it to. Okay, and I'll show you here in a second. So let's get out of edit mode. All right, and let's come over here with our rust polygon selected. Go to modifiers, and let's add let's do the shrink wrap first. So select shrink wrap, and nothing happens, which is normal. Okay, and what I want you to do is, we need to set a target that we want to wrap it, that we want to shrink wrap this polygon to. All right, so in the properties of the shrink wrap, with the properties of the shrink wrap, click the eyedropper for the target and then select the fuel tank. You'll notice how that snaps to the fuel tank, right? Okay, but it's not very impressive because it's snapping to the fuel tank based on those 4 vertices of our polygon. So these 4 vertices on the corners are snapping to the closest face, edge, vertice of the object that we're wrapping to. Okay, so you have a curve like this is our tank, and our plane is passing through but touching here and down here, right? You see that, right? It's touching here and here. Basically what that's creating is kind of like it's the chord of that curve. All right, so we don't see our rust outside of here because our rust is inside the tank. All right, so we're gonna change that You can do it a couple different ways, but they're going to do the best results. I'll show you the best results. First, I'll show you how to get the rust to show up. So if you come over here to the offset, and we offset that, we incrementally do the offset, it offsets these 4 points away from the tank. All right, but that's not what we really want. We want it to lay on our tank. All right, so let's change this back to 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to add another modifier. We're going to add some geometry to this particular polygon so it wraps on our tank a lot better. Okay, so come over here to the wrap method. No, that's not what I wanted. Oh, I'm sorry, not the wrap method. Come over here to the modifier stack, and let's add a second modifier, and we're going to add a subdivision modifier. So click that, and it changes this shape of your polygon, which is not what you want. We want a simple, just a simple subdivision modifier. We do not want the Catmull-Clark subdivision. So select the simple, and now it's kind of like it puts creases around the edges so we have a nice square edge. Okay, the Catmull can come in handy for other types of decals, but in this particular case I'm just showing you the basics. Okay, all right, now we need the modifier to happen before we do the shrink wrap. So take the subdivision modifier and drag that up above the shrink wrap. Okay, so the subdivision happens first and then it does the shrink wrap. Okay, now during my conniption that I had to do a Control Z on a couple things, I removed our target. So I'm going to re-add the target to the shrink wrap, select my tank. Okay, so now our polygon is snapping to our tank. Remember, the first time that we did it, it only snapped on the 4 corners. But now we have a subdivision modifier with one additional set of vertices, which comes, there's one here, and one here, and there's one here, and there's one here. All right, so now it's snapping in 9 locations. And if we look at that, if I change the view, you can kind of see that. You can't see it very well because the offset isn't set yet. But right here, this little stripe, that's part of our image. That's barely making it through the surface of our tank, all right? But it's laying down better on our tank than it did the first time with only those 4 corners, because the subdivision modifier added an extra set of vertices, okay? Let's add another set and see, it actually starts to smooth out even a little more, and there's another stripe that is starting to show up a little bit better, right? You can subdivide this as much as you want to make it as accurate as you want. Now we want our rust to show up on our tank. So over here on the offset, all right, let's type in a value that brings that polygon out just so slightly, so our texture overlays the fuel tank. All right, so offset, you'll just have to experiment, use small increments first, and see how that goes. Let's do 0.00, let's 0.005. See if that works. A little bit, not great, Okay, let's go 0.01, twice as much. Nope, we can come out even further than that. All right, so let's go 0.05. Hey, looky there. That's looking better. It's not the best. I'm just giving you the basics. So what you'll need to do is play with the offset until that decal starts to come out and lays on the surface of your object. Okay? So this is just a basic lesson on how to apply a decal to an object. Okay? Now, since this decal is an object, you can select it and hit G. Okay, whoops. You select the decal, hit G to move, to grab it, and you can. Okay, I'm not moving in a specific axis. That's why it disappears. I mean, I'm free floating it. But let's say I already hit the G. Let's move it up and down. That would be in the Z axis. So now it's just moving up and down. Okay. Now, as you move it, notice that this is where we set our offset to 0.05 and it showed up nice. But if I come down, you start losing it again, you might have to play with the offset to bring that back out. Okay. So let's hit escape. Let's not move it. Let's just leave it where we had it before. Now I can move it. I can GX. No, I don't want X. I want GY, and I can slide it down my tank like this. Maybe I wanted some rust here and rust here and rust here. Okay, this may not be the best rust texture to use for this. I might just want a, one stripe or something like that. You can make your own textures in Krita. Okay, with a transparent background and some kind of rust color stripe or something like that. Let's say there was a leak at the top and it was just one stripe down. You can create, like I said, a PNG with a transparent background in Krita, and then the foreground is some kind of rust colored stripe or something. Okay, and you can import that image as a plane and put a decal on it. All right, so I'm just trying to show you the basics. But once you have that decal in the location that you want, okay, then you're all set. Okay, so let's review really quick. In order to be able to do a decal like this, you're going to need to edit preferences, and you're going to need to have the import images plane, have that enabled, all right, which I already do. Then you want to move your 3D cursor to the location that you want to add that plane to. Do your Shift A, okay, add the images plane, and then that will add a polygon with your image superimposed. If it's not transparent, you're going to come over to the material properties and you're going to make sure that that's alpha blend, that your transparent shows up and only the colored part is going to be shown on your object. Okay, then you'll want to add, once you have it oriented where you want that plane, you're going to add two modifiers. You're going to add a subdivision modifier, and then you're going to do a shrink wrap modifier. Okay, you can do, if it was me doing it, since I know how to do it, I'd do the subdivision first, then I would add the shrink wrap. Okay, but for educational purposes, I showed you to do the shrink wrap first and then add the subdivision modifier. Okay, that's not the way I would do it, but just so you can see the change. All right, so you'll add your subdivision modifier in your shrink wrap. Now remember, on the shrink wrap, that you're going to want to choose the target. Okay, in this case the tank, the fuel tank. Also remember, if you have a rectangular image that you want it to stay rectangular, change the Catmull-Clark subdivision to a simple subdivision. And then to control how many vertices come in contact with your target object, you're going to increase the number of subdivisions. With me? You got that? Okay, so let's pretend, that that's what we want. All right, now most of you guys are probably better artists than I am. You can do a better job with finding a texture that has leaks and stuff. And just so you know, I got that texture from ambientcg.com. All right, and this is probably where I get most of my textures from. But I just downloaded one of these. I can't even remember which one is. Okay, these top layers don't have they're not transparent underneath, and then these are transparent underneath. So I would go with one of the ones that have transparency already there. Okay, but you can also get stripes like this and play with those. So that's just one of the texture sites that I go to get stuff. All right. There's a link in the description on many different free texture locations that you can go to. You can go to textures.com, but if you want the free textures, they're going to be a lower res, like 512 by 512. And if you want any textures with resolutions greater than that, then you'll probably have to pay for a monthly subscription or something like that. But I like to find the free stuff, okay? Because it is a hobby after all. All right, so we applied a little bit of rust to the tank. What else can we do with decals? Well, let me take a look. Maybe we are not adding, weathering to our fuel tank, but maybe there's a company logo or something on the tank, or maybe a flammable sign. Now, I don't have a flammable sign ready, I don't think, but we're going to find out. All right, so let's select our tank, and let's go into edit mode and do face select. I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to Shift S, and I'm going to move my 3D cursor to the center of this face. Get out of edit mode. Okay. Now, remember, we still have the image. As plane enabled, so I can use that all the time now. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in Shift A. We're going to add in another image as plane. And you're going to get the dialog box, and we're going to go to our textures directory. Whoops. Go to our textures directory, and let me see if I can find another texture. There's fuel tank flam, but I think that's two flammable signs side by side. Let's do something kind of neat. Let's put Phillips Aviation Fuel. Let's select that. And you notice it. There it is right there. Okay. Now, what we can do is we need to, let's rotate this on the Z-axis 180 degrees. All right. And let's rotate it on the X 90. No, negative 90. Negative 90. Okay. All right, so there we have that. Now we can actually scale. Let's do a scale and make that, oops, hold my shift key in. Let's make that polygon a little smaller. All right. And then, now something flat, to be honest with you, something flat, you really wouldn't need to do a shrink wrap, but you can. So let's go ahead and do that anyway. So let's come over here and do a modifier, add modifier, shrink wrap. All right. And then target, we want the tank. So select the tank. And then let's just change our offset one click. All right, that's 0.083, which is 1 inch actually. 0.083 feet is 1 inch. So that right there, we wouldn't need to add in subdivisions because it's a flat surface. Okay, we don't need to wrap it. Even though we're shrink wrapping it, we don't need to follow a curve or anything. So I wouldn't need to add a subdivision modifier to that. All right, so there we just put a logo on our tank. Okay, and I can move that up if I wanted to with GZ and move that up to the top. Okay, so you can have a logo. And if you had some flammable signs, you can follow the same steps to add that decal. All right, so this is another way of creating like a sign. Okay, but the shrink wrap will allow you to take that sign and wrap it around like curved faces. All right. So the decal has a lot of advantages to it. Okay, it really does. So, I mean, we're not going to do anything right now because it's the same process over and over. But, like for instance, you can go to like these pipes, and maybe at the joints of the pipes there's some leak marks, and you can add a small leaking, rusty whatever decal to where the intersection of the joints are. Okay, so you can, the decals has a lot of power to it that you can use to add character to your models. Okay, so what I want you to do, your homework until our next video, is to play with working with decals. Go out, get different images, select objects, and look for rust or look for water leaks or something, some imperfections that you want to add to your model, and use the decal, the shrink wrap method of adding that to your model. Get used to it. Play with it over and over and over. Make mistakes, whatever it is. So work on that. Eventually, we're going to get to, in this series, we're going to come back to this hangar, and we're going to just start using all those different techniques to add some characteristics to our hangar itself. Okay. Now, another thing I want to show you before we end this video, which I should end this video because it's already long enough. Okay. Remember, we made a material for windows. So let's select our doors, okay, and our door windows. And since we already have a material for windows that we did over here on the office, we're just going to use that same material for our people doors on the end of our building. So with our windows selected, I'm going to come down here to the material properties. Maybe, there we go. And I'm going to come down and I'm going to select glass. So now these doors have their glass, right? Now the thing with the windows on the ends of our buildings, okay, now these will take care of in the next video. But well, you can take care of them now if you wanted to, because it's going to be the same method. See, we have all these individual windows that are on our hangar door. But if we look at the prototype, okay, they're really fiberglass panels laid over openings is basically what that is. Okay, it's just a sheet of fiberglass of a certain color, and it's translucent. It's not really a window window, okay? It's not window glass, okay? It's just something to keep the weather out, but yet let a little bit light in. And on this end of the hangar, it has the same thing, okay? These windows in these horizontal flipping doors have the same material as the window. They're just fiberglass panels, okay? They're not glass, but you can use glass as a material, all right? I mean, just turn down the shininess of it. All right, so with these windows selected, I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to call this yellow fiber. Okay, yellow fiber. Hit enter. And then I'm going to come down, and I am going to come down to the MSFS parameters. I'm going to select standard. Okay. And I'm going to change the albedo to some kind of yellow. Not too dark. It's more kind of like a yellow green, really, to tell you to be true, in real life. Maybe not that green. Let's go to RGB and let's bring down the green a little bit, because it's not totally green. All right, so that gives us a little bit more yellow. And let's darken that up a little bit because we don't want it that bright. Okay, so something like that. Okay, it may not be perfect, but you get the idea. Okay, so we have the albedo color changed. We're not going to add a emission to it because I usually let the simulator lights shine through. I do the lighting. I usually don't put an emissive color to my windows. All right, I allow light to light up the inside of the building and then see it at night through the glass. It's more realistic in my opinion. If I gave this an emissive color at night, it will look like a light is on, but you won't be able to see anything inside the building. Okay? So, anyway, let's not play with emissive, but let's turn down the alpha multiplier to something like 0.55 or less, or it doesn't matter. Okay, and that is going to, if we scroll up to our base color, you'll notice this is what it's going to look like transparent. Okay, this is our base color, but this is the transparency. Okay, we talked about that when we did windows before. All right, except we're using a yellow color to simulate the fiberglass material. Okay, now on this I want to add one more little property. Okay, other than, with the exception of this glass, if in real life a lot of times glass that has a color tint to it, the color of the tint shows up when you're on the outside looking to the inside of the structure. But if you're inside the building, a lot of times that glass still looks clear. It doesn't have that color tint to it. Okay, so that's what I did with the regular glass. On the outside looking in, it might have a grayish, brownish look to it. But if you're in real life inside the building looking out the window, you don't see that color of the tint. Okay. However, with these fiberglass panels, it doesn't matter whether you're inside or outside, it's still going to have that yellowish look to it, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click double-sided. So both sides of that polygon have this material applied to it. So it looks the same on either side. Okay, you with me so far? Okay, so that's what I did. I came down to the render parameters and I selected double-sided. So both sides are now yellow translucent. Okay? So there we did our windows. All right, now these windows, separate object. All I have to do is select that object and come down until I find yellow fiber and apply that, just like that. All right, and then I can come over to this side, and these are big long panels, okay, and I can do the same to this. All right. Okay, now some of this, you get some bleed from the polygons that are below it, okay, but for this particular case, that's okay. You'll get some flickering in the sim if you have a polygon laying on top of a polygon. So what you could do is just move that polygon out ever so slightly so they're not physically touching each other. And that's what I'll end up doing with these long panels like this. Okay? So today you learned how to apply a decal to an object, and another lesson in some characteristics of glass. So practice on those, and we will see. Well, I got to do my commercial, right? I know you guys don't want it, but hey, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell for upcoming videos, and if you feel inclined, support me by just buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. Appreciate you guys. I really do. You guys are awesome. You guys have been buying me some coffee, and I love it. I'm not here to make millions of dollars. I'm not. I just thank you guys for, helping me out. I will see you guys on the next video, and we're going to do some more texturing to our hangar. So we will see you guys next time. See ya.